Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast with me, your host, Freddie Hall. Welcome back, Adam Martin, and welcome on Gareth Smith. Gareth's been doing some fantastic interviews, including one with Peter Clark, tight end from Temple Owl. So I urge you to go and all watch that on our YouTube channel right now. It's a really, really good interview. And I know we've not seen you for a couple of weeks, not really seen you since the draft. And what an exciting time that was to be alive. And then we had the schedule release again, very, very exciting as well. But of course, with schedule release came the NFL London games. And in the last few days, well, last week really, what's been happening is the tickets have gone on sale for that. And I mean, we're going to talk about the games in their entirety, but we thought it wouldn't be right for us to not really sort of put in our 50p, I suppose, on how this has all been going. And it's a massive topic at the minute for NFL UK fans. Though we speak to NFL fans all over the world, we are based in the UK and that is our market. And it's good for us to talk about it. So, we've got 3 games coming over here this year, 2 at Tottenham and 1 at Wembley. The Wembley game being Jacksonville Jaguars coming up against the LA Rams. But firstly, we have the Minnesota Vikings going up against the Cleveland Browns. And we also have the Denver Broncos playing the New York Jets as well. 3 games with divided opinion, I suppose, in terms of how good a games they're going to be, I suppose. I suppose we have, 1, 2, 3 playoff teams from last year coming over here this year. It doesn't mean they're going to be playoff teams this year, and it doesn't mean that the bad teams necessarily, the bad teams in inverted commas, are going to be bad this year as well. But first, I mean, Gareth, we'll go to you. First time in a while, but you've been on the talk show as well, so welcome back to come and chat about this divisive subject. I mean, it's been on the tip of everyone's tongue is how the ticket system and how it would all work this year, and also the pricing of it as well, and the demand as well. How much of the pendulum swung this year from a positive out view to a negative?
Actually, I think it's been swinging for the past few years. I think that they've had problems with touting for a long, long while. I think for as long as the game's been over, and obviously with the demand each year, you can see that the queue sizes, you do actively see them getting bigger and bigger each year. I think what hasn't helped this year as well is Ticketmaster having to stop the sale because of the worries about bots and touts. That isn't a good look. I know obviously we've also got the problem in regards to the price increases year on year. So you have a ticket there a few years ago would have been 80, is now I think 210, I think was the price that someone was quoting for these tickets. And don't get me wrong, as someone who lives in Liverpool and goes to Liverpool games, you see the same thing in the Premier League. You see ticket prices going up, trying to cater for the fans coming over more so than the fans in the country that it's in. But it is not a great look, I don't think. Particularly bearing in mind, I think Ticketmaster is a lot of the problems is down to Ticketmaster and how they run it. The fact that you put a ticket in a basket, it says it's £70, but then you check out 110. It just doesn't make any sense. I think you can just see the general discourse on Twitter, on any NFL UK post about these games is a lot more negative than I've seen. Don't get me wrong, there's always been an element of negativity. There's the usual characters who always will put a few negative comments, but this year it seems to have turned to being predominantly negative comments as opposed to it being the excitement that these games should be. We always get excited. It's, I think, any NFL UK fans' favourite time of year when we know we're going to get 3 weeks in a row of games over here. And even when the games aren't necessarily going to be the teams you want to see, whether it be the Jets and the Browns, who are 2 teams that weren't particularly great last year, and even the Jags haven't been great. I think there's always still an element of excitement because it's just football over here. But I think the pricing, Ticketmaster problems is starting to turn people negative about the whole subject, which isn't a great look.
This is a mailbag show, so we have got questions that we are going to do in the second half of the show. But please feel free to put in the comments anything you want to ask us or anything about this. But Gareth, yeah, you make some fantastic points. Oh, me kicking over something under my desk just to make a load of noise. You make some fantastic points. I will also preface this with that us as now seen as a media outlet, I suppose, is that we are in the privileged bunch that has been getting tickets complimentary. I say complimentary, that comes with something. We are there to report on it. We're there to interview. We're there to make content. So people may look at the show or look at the name of this show or what the subjects we begin with and thinking, well, hang on a minute, you guys go for free anyway. We have all paid to go to games. We have all paid for a very long time to go to games. And yes, we are in a very, very lucky minority now where a select few can go. And I don't say select fews in terms of the people here, as in we only have the tickets that we are provided. That tends to be two, I admit. It has been one, and we were at the Super Bowl this year as well. We didn't get a ticket to that. So, and that was all the things that we do for this podcast, we pay out of our own pocket for that. So, whole of New Orleans was paid by ourselves. Our equipment, everything like this, subscriptions and things like this, in the platform we're doing, it is paid for by us. So, yeah, all right, we might not be paying for tickets year on year now, but we are here to report on the fact that it is rising. I thought it was important for us to get that out there before we get the people of the Twitterverse or Facebook or Instagram for that matter saying, well, you lot shouldn't be complaining. You get to go to the games anyway. That's because we work within it. We've worked very hard to be able to get to that point.
The same point, Fred. You're still with Adam's bought tickets for this coming season. I bought tickets for the Jags game because I went last year because I want to experience it as a fan. Like me and my dad like to go, so like I go as a fan, and I've seen those incremental price increases year on year. Like, don't get me wrong, like I like to pick good seats. I don't mind paying the money for it because it's a special occasion kind of thing each year. But the cost of living and everything, it does seem to price out fans, particularly bearing in mind that I mentioned I'm from the Northwest. Like, it's bad enough living in London spending 200 quid on a ticket. Throw in the fact you live in the Northwest and the hotels all know the games are on, so the price of hotels go up for what would be relatively cheap on a Sunday traditionally. So you have to book those hotels well in advance, because otherwise what would be a 45 quid hotel room is suddenly 120 quid for the night. Throw in the fact that the train fare and all the rest of it, and suddenly that 210 quid ticket from travel and hotel is suddenly 500 quid. And that's me from the Northwest. There's people travel from Scotland, there's people travel internationally. It's all those added on expenses that the little increase doesn't, the increase on tickets year on year doesn't make that any better.
Adam, we were sent by, we've had quite a few questions from our post on Twitter, which thankfully we will go through a lot of them later on. But I want to draw attention to a table that Mark Hansen at Mesh NFL posted to us. He did originally send a table regarding the ticket pricing rising. He said he didn't know where it was sourced from. He said this one was sourced from Reddit. I admit we have to then, we can't completely rely on this source of information, admittedly, but it looks pretty. If anyone is an Excel whiz, they can work out whether this table's correct very quickly. But this is for the single price tickets for Tottenham, and I mean, it's gone up from 2019 to 2025. Category 1 tickets have gone up by 84%, with Category 7 going up by 136.4%. Now, the world, as we know, is getting more expensive. Me being in London, you just south of London in your area, and then obviously Gareth even in Liverpool, it's everything is going up. We know this. But as things are going up, we are now as a country and as a people, we are being more careful and more wise with how we spend our money and where we put our money in. And unfortunately, will the NFL be one of them things where people go, we just can't simply do it? Everything is going up. Gareth just said to them, if you're from the north of England or even from further south, if you're from Plymouth and places in Bournemouth and places like that, it's still a lot to get here. When you're talking £400-500 what you're spending, it's a price for a small holiday for some people now.
Yeah, it is an insane amount, and I think that actually most NFL UK fans who go to these games are more than happy to accept price increases. I don't think anyone's coming out and saying it should be the price it was back in 2019 or it should be the price it was back in 2022. I think everyone understands that the economy has obviously had knocks. It has changed. There's been different governments in charge and stuff like that. There's been a lot of inflation, price increases here, there, and everywhere with everything. So I think people understand that. I would like to know where there's been 140% price increases in the space of like 5 and 6 years. I think that's where it becomes a little bit, what are you doing here? And actually, it's not even so much about that, but for the lower price tickets, why has there been a 91% increase in the space of 2 years or 1 year? I think that's the thing that people are going, what's going on? This feels very unfair. The table that you mentioned, as you say, we can't sort of like come out and say it's 100% accurate. Having said all that, knowing that we were doing this this show today, I went back and had a look at some of the tickets that I've got, the old tickets, and I've got one in 2022 and I've got one from 2019, and both of them are the prices that are on there. And if you go and get them seats today where I was, they are the prices that they are now set at 2025. So I know it's, you know, it's not scientific or anything, but I can work that out, that's what's happened. The fact is I remember 3 years ago, all three of us were at the Packers Giants game at the top of the main stand at Tottenham, and them tickets were £77, and now they're being sold for 160. And even like, if you look now, top tier in a lot of them, they're 160, they're 180, they're 195 for the top tier. That's mental. That the idea that is considered a fair price increase in the space of 3 years is just feels wrong and just too much for a lot of people to be able to stomach, when, as you say, there are so many price increases in other areas of your life that the fact of the matter is entertainment is probably the one area that will suffer. And so therefore, you know, the NFL will be something that suffers, and you're seeing it with what when you look at the game.
But an entertainment that is probably, unfortunately for most people, second on the pecking order, or maybe even third on the pecking order in terms of your sports entertainment, you know, football being the overriding thing.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I mean, obviously a lot of fans over here are quite, you know, they are quite hardcore fans when it comes to the NFL. But yes, I would agree with you that at the end of the day, I would be very surprised if you spoke to any NFL fan who goes to a lot of these games. I'd be amazed if they didn't have football teams that they supported and probably went to as well. So I think that you're probably right. It's not the primary entertainment thing when it comes to the people of this country. Unfortunately, you know, we love it, but not everyone does. And yeah, I mean, look, things go, don't they? You know, being members of clubs, that's what disappears. People can't afford to do that. And we are in this sort of, we're in this world now where everything is getting more expensive. And to a certain degree, that's fine, but not this kind of price increase. It's just, I think it's just insane. And it's a real shame actually that Andrew couldn't be with us, because Andrew was a season ticket holder and you know, was basically lost his season tickets, and they were taken away. And it's noticeable that the large price increases have changed since 2023, which is when the season ticket holders lost their season tickets.
What, Gareth, why do you think that's happened with the season tickets then? Because I'm presenting the argument that it's so that they can then bump these prices up. But I mean, Andrew was distraught when his season ticket went, because he's been going since the first game at Wembley. The first game at Wembley he's been there, and I think in that time up until the season tickets ended for Wembley and it got all changed around, I think he said he'd missed 2 games ever. I think. Now, I could be wrong. It doesn't really matter. It's just I'm talking about his consistency of going. Why has that? What, you know, is that really tone deaf by the NFL to have done that? Or on the flip side, is it that, hang on a minute, yeah, you've been going to the NFL for a long time. You've been a season ticket holder. The true way to grow this sport is to entice new people coming into it, young people or people of the like, but it is to get new faces in the ground to watch it. And unfortunately, the amount of people that have been going for a long time and the season tickets you have, unfortunately, we just can't honour that anymore because we're not going to be able to grow the sport anymore if we keep them.
I think part of the problem was the amount of season ticket holders that would then appear on the secondary market. So people would buy them to guarantee themselves tickets to one game. They would then sell the other one off, and it normally would be because the season tickets obviously were cheaper as well because you're buying the 2 tickets. So I think the NFL kind of went, hang on a minute, we want to make that money, not the individual reselling the ticket. And I think that did. And also, it's a bit odd having a season ticket with 1 or 2 games. It's not much of a season ticket. Particularly when they started moving around stadium to stadium, that didn't help. So it was easy when they were all based at Wembley. When they're all based at Wembley, you had, but then it became Twickenham. Then you had obviously Spurs. So I think the whole idea of season tickets just didn't make sense anymore, just because of that. And I think that you also have the fact that, as you say, percentage of your stadium each year gone at a cheaper rate than what they would be otherwise, which they would then sell them at the price everyone else pays. And I'll be honest, it was a lot harder to get tickets during those periods. I remember the Packers game, which we mentioned. I think we were all, because we were buying a big group of us all trying to go. I think we were all sat. I was in, I think, train station in Stoke, delaying going to. I was going to work late that day because my train was delayed. Honest, when really I was sat at a train station because I was in front of a queue. But the queues were massive then. But now they're on a whole nother level. I think that's the demand is there to the point where they can necessarily go, we don't need the season ticket holders anymore. We don't need those people to carry because we're going to sell the tickets anyway. So why do we need you? And which is not a great look, not a great message, but I can see why they did it. But at the end of the day, they make more money doing it. And the NFL is a business.
But they're not selling the tickets, Gareth. That's the point as well.
This time,
I've just gone on to Ticketmaster just now to look at the availability for which game was it that I was looking at. It was the Vikings-Browns game, and you can get outside of the lower tiers on both sides of the if you're not behind the posts, and then the higher tiers in one end and the higher tiers in the other end are all blocked out. All that lower tiers and the higher tiers of both sides of the stadium are already available still. I mean, and they are all category 6 is the lowest category, and that at the minute is if it wants to load up, if I tap a seat. I'm sorry, I'm also working on one. It's £195 at the minute.
I think that's the problem you got right now is the pricing. So I think the problem is the pricing right now. Well, last year they didn't seem to have the same problem. They were the tickets were quite hard to get last year. Like I managed to get my Jags tickets in the Jags pre-sale, the Jag UK pre-sale. But I know they weren't easy. The tickets weren't that easy to get. This year it seems a lot easier than ever. I think that's because the price increases are just ridiculous. I do think I've noticed a turning point as well with fans in the stands. Like, for example, I was out there in the Jags. There was a lot of people from Jacksonville had flown over. They had come over to UK. They bought the premium tickets because they wanted to do Club Wembley and all that kind of stuff. So it seems to be the more premium tickets were Jags fans coming over for a holiday to the UK and to see the UK. Whereas I seem to be one of the only people in that section. Me and my dad seem to be the only people in that section that weren't from Jacksonville. So it was quite unusual in that space because we were surrounded by Jags fans. It was like, but we were the only ones who were from the UK. So it seems to be more the catering towards a bit like I think how football's gone. It's easier to get a ticket if you are a foreign fan. I guarantee if we were going the other way, it'd be easy for us to get. Like, for example, Adam is a Green Bay Packers fan. I guarantee he would have a much easier time getting a ticket for a Packers game with a travel company than anyone who's a Green Bay fan in America. Which is not right, but it seems to be the way it's going. But that's what I found. I found that the lower tier were basically from America who coming on holiday as well while they were over here. So it does seem to be that this year seems to be a turning point there with these prices.
That's what we discussed, Adam, was the fact of, is there an element of tourism within this?
Yeah, it is true. I had a quick look, and we've got a couple of companies over here. We've got Touchdown Trips and Elite Sports Travel, who both do really good trips and have different trips over the course of the year. And that there is obviously, if I was willing to pay it, you could pay to go, and you've got a ticket guaranteed. That's the point. So it's almost like, and you've got your ticket guaranteed no matter what. So it's almost like it is easier. So I can understand that there would be companies in America, there would be company probably for the teams, specific companies for the teams over in America that would provide American people to be able to come over and do that. And you can treat it as like a holiday, can't you? And so, like you say, as we see with the Premier League and the sort of tourism that continues into Premier League teams, it is going to happen over here for the NFL teams as well. When it comes to the ticket prices and the fact, as Gareth said, last year, when you actually look at this table that we've seen, there are price increases to it. I mean, you've got like 25-30% price increases, but they are for the more expensive tickets. When you actually look at the 23-24 price increases at the cheapest tickets, it was only 6.3%. That has now gone up 91.2%. That has gone from £68 to 130, and that is telling you exactly why the tickets are not being sold. The people with effectively the least amount of money, or at least the least amount of money that they're willing to spend on going to these games, do not suddenly have an extra 91.2% to be able to pay for it. And that's the same for, like, so that's category 7. Category 6, it goes from 88 to 160. It's like this is just in 1 year. And even the most expensive one has gone up 17.9%. And that is the problem, and that's why you're seeing it. And then I do think personally, because I have been quite vocal in how I've been regarding the teams that have been coming over here in the last few years, and what I consider quite poor games. And which is why I haven't really been to as many in the last few years as what I did a few years ago. The Vikings have been over here. Is this the 3rd year in a row? They were here last year.
Done 3 out of 4, I think. They didn't do the year before. So they sent over a couple of players for a trip.
I mean, who the Vikings are playing the Browns. Like, in the nicest possible way. Who cares? And also the other thing with the Browns that everyone forgets about is that we didn't even want them to come over when Deshaun Watson was here, but now we're happy with him because he's not going to play. But we're happy to charge these people, the public, we're happy to charge them an insane price to go and watch a team that we weren't even happy ourselves to have at one point, which is a bit of an odd one. And then what you've got, I think the Broncos are a playoff team, or who have got an exciting potential. So I think they're worth seeing. But the Jets, who were here last year, I believe, again, a team it's not great. The Jags obviously here all the time, and that's been a bit stale, although I feel there's a bit more excitement about them this year. And then the Rams, who are a playoff team, and I think people would like to see them, sort of thing. So I think it's a bit hit and miss again. There's no standout game. I would argue it's the Jags-Rams game is the standout game, but I think a lot of people are a little bit like, we've seen the Jags over and over again, so they're not as desperate to go. But yeah, if you factor all them things into it, it's no wonder why they're not selling.
But also, I think I mentioned tourism about people coming here. I think it's the same thing for us. I'm more likely to want to go to a Dublin game or a Madrid game than I am to go to a game in London. Because, for one, it's cheaper for me to get from Liverpool to Dublin, stay in a hotel, than it is for me to get a train to London. Or if I want to go to Madrid, I'm pretty sure there's an EasyJet or Ryanair flight that gets me there cheaper than a train ticket to London.
But that's awful.
I think it would. Yeah. It shouldn't be that way, but that's the problem as well. I think the tourism factor does work in other ways. Like, Freddie, you've been over to the German games, and talked about the atmosphere at those compared to our games. I think the tourism factor is also a negative for the UK games, and the fact that we ourselves are more likely to want to go to. Like we've got Andy, who's a friend of the show. He's going to go to the Madrid game. If he had a choice between any of them, he's a Dolphins fan. He's going to want to go to Madrid. Freddie, Steelers fan. Which game are you going to want to go see?
I've already booked my flight. I've already booked my flight. And I'll be honest about it. It was 70 quid. It was 70 quid. Okay, to a lot of people, it's a lot of money. To me, it's a fair bit of money. But it's going to be it's substantially less money than I would pay when I used to come down from Leicester. Leicester this was maybe one of the cruxes of having the season ticket at the time is I remember going, and now admittedly you could go, Fred, why didn't you just say no to one of them and what another friend would have taken it and bought it? But I wanted to go and see as much NFL as I could, and that ticket was for me. So I bought it for him. But I remember when we had 4 games one year, and it was like a game every weekend in October. It was so ridiculously expensive. It was free. I think it was 3 games in a row, and then a week off, and then a game. And I was like, this is crazy. We like this whole of September. I must have spent, including travel, drinks and food when you're there, and the tickets themselves. It easily must have been at nearly £800 easily. But it was a different time. I was living with my parents and stuff like that. That was a different time for me. But like now, it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous now. And also with the Steelers game, for example, a big thing of that is the Steelers have not played in Europe in general for a very long time. They've not played in London for I've never seen. The Steelers have never played over here since I've been watching NFL. So there is that as well, where you both made the point of the Vikings and the Jets and the Jags. Well, if you've seen them once, you're going to want to do it again. Like, do you want to do that again? Like, I don't know. There's a lot going on, isn't there? Do you want me to move to some questions from on Twitter? Cool.
Yeah,
go for it.
Some of these are probably a bit self-fulfilling of what we've talked about already, but I'll try and go through as many of them as I can anyway. It's from Don't Patrol UK. We've got hearing a lot of stories of people not buying tickets for London and spending money on going over to the US instead because of the prices. Have the NFL made a huge error of judgment this year with season ticket shambles and ludicrously high ticket prices? We have mentioned this. We have gone into this. I mean, going to the US is still a lot. It is still a lot of money. And I personally, when I've gone to games in the US, I've never used travel companies. I've never done it that way. I've always bought the ticket. I think the last tickets I bought was the Miami Dolphins game, Buffalo Bills game 3 years ago, maybe. And I think me and my partner both bought a ticket, and I think they were around £90, I believe, or it might be $90. I think it was £90. Yeah. I think it must have been that, and that was week 4. So like not crazy, yes, it's a division game as well. That probably why the hot price was up there as well. But I don't think this does push people to go to the US more though. I don't think it does.
Particularly not right now, because obviously there's problems with the borders and all that kind of stuff, people getting in. So I think obviously people are not going to the States generally. I think it's more the games in Europe that are probably a bigger driver. Like who wouldn't want to go to Madrid? Do you know what I mean? Like, what's that game? Is that October, November, that game? Or November. But like, no, where would you rather be? November in London or November in Madrid? And obviously it's not warming, but
you're right. It's been a big thing I've said though, isn't it? It's been a big thing I've said doing this is like, if it was in Frankfurt or Munich again this year, I'd have gone, well, I'm all right. I don't have to go. Somebody else can go if they like. That's fine. And okay, it's in Berlin. I've been very fortunate. I have been to Berlin before, so I'm like, I'm not that bothered about flying over to it. It's not that much of whereas Madrid, I've been like, I very much would like to go to Madrid because I've never been to Madrid.
Yeah,
and that would be really cool. Now, for me personally, with my finances, it's not looking like I'm going to be able to do that because of all the things I've got going on in my life. But I would go and do that. Like I would want to go and do that. And same with Dublin. I've been to Dublin before, but if that's more circumstantial of the fact of Ireland's first game. It's going to be big. And it's the same. We're going to Madrid this year. It's Spain's first game. It's going to be big. It's going to be a proper party there. And I have to admit as well, someone who's gone to the European Games, they are doing it better than us. They are. The crowd experience as a total in Europe, in the games I've been in Germany, has been wonderful. Far superior to here. Far superior to anything that we've ever had before, to be honest with you, as well. I don't think it's like we had it really great and it's gone downhill. It's better than we've had ever. And there's different rules and different laws and stuff like that. And there is a lot more movement I found in European cities. And I found that from regular football as well in Europe. There's a lot more being able to go in and out of the stadium for people who are smokers or vapors and stuff like that, or people who want to move around a little bit, who want to find their seat and then go back out and participate in drinking and being amongst the crowd in sort of crowd zones that they have. And we have that a little bit at Wembley, but it's not like it. It's not like it is over there. It's way more.
We don't really do much in the way of tailgating, do we, over here?
No.
It's like it doesn't exist.
And you could call it tailgating is what they're trying to create. And I mean, again, I went when I went to Munich last year. I was very fortunate, but I also went to go to the Bayern Champions League game in midweek. I didn't turn up early enough to do all the fan experience stuff. I sort of turned up, went straight in. So I don't know whether that happened. I'm sure that happens all the time for the Munich fans as well. I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does for the Bayern fans. So yeah, it would make sense if they're going to do the exact same thing for the NFL fans. But even, you know, we don't. I know we're not a tailgating country, so to speak. We go to pubs and stuff like that beforehand, or stadiums. Arsenal, for one, do a 2-for-1 offer before, like an hour before kickoff, to get people in the stadium, you know, to generate revenue, which is understandable. I can get that because there's no real open spaces around Arsenal to be able to do a tailgate scenario. And also, unfortunately, it's a bit of a elephant in the room. UK sport fans don't behave. We don't. And the European sport fans, yes, I know there's been problem with the Parisians in France this weekend with Paris Saint-Germain, but historically, we've been the bad guys throughout sporting history, haven't we, really? And they just know how to behave themselves better in Germany and in Spain, presumably, well, hopefully this year as well. So I'm sorry I've sort of hijacked this. It's just because we've talked about a lot about this and it's saying about the US and Europe. But
I think, to be fair, when you look at it as well, you mentioned, I think, to be fair, the tailgating, they did try a little bit. I remember Wembley, when I used to start going to games, they used to have, like, the Lombardi Trophy you could have photos with, or the Super Bowl rings on display. They had, like, sections where you could drink beer, either sell your merch. Don't get me wrong, the more beer they plowed into you, the more merch people bought. So it was a great situation for them. But, like, by Spurs, that fan park area they've got, where it's not great, and I think that also doesn't help. Whereas I think that how they originally used to have it, don't get me wrong, I think that what the Jags did at Wembley this year was decent. Like they had that whole underground section where you could again have a few drinks and they had big screens and all the rest of it. That was probably as close as we get. Whereas the Spurs games are just, there's literally, you have to find something nearby because what they put outside the stadium is not great.
But again, and this isn't NFL's fault, I do admit, this isn't NFL's fault. But at Wembley, the council don't allow you to have public drinking. So
yes,
you can't have public drinking around Wembley pretty much from the station now. It wasn't like that before. It was you could sort of take drinks all the way up to an area and they'd say no drinks past this area. So you could stand outside the stadium and you could drink your own drinks, which is up to people if they want to do that. But, you know, 20 quid on a case of 24 beers for 6 of your mates is different to them when you buy 6 beers, you know, even a round is a lot more. It's so expensive now in the stadiums. You know, it's north of £7, £8 a pint in a plastic cup. You know, that also discourages people from going. It does as well, you know, when they have that. And that's not an NFL issue, I admit, and it's not necessarily a Wembley Stadium issue. It is a council issue. So that is maybe unfair of me. Moving on to Mike, his Twitter handle at DMReese2011. There's lots of questions. Has the proliferation on games in Europe fed into this? We've already answered that one. Have quality of teams and matchups unaffected sales? Are we now seeing the effect of fans actually choosing a team to support, so influencing decisions? The main question, greed, ? So the quality of teams and matchups and affected sales. Adam, what do you think? You've bridged into this, but we've had now all the teams come over. We have had that now. There is no teams are anticipating to come over. Do you think that has started a bit of the downward trajectory of it a little bit? Is that there's no new teams anymore, I suppose?
I don't think it's necessarily that there's no new teams. I think it's more about the quality of the matchups that we are getting. I think that's more what the issue is. I would argue that, I mean, when have we ever had a matchup where you could come out and, I mean, I know it's like week 4 or 5, so it's early. You don't know. It always changes every year and all that. But it's been a long time since we've had a game where we could probably come out and say them two teams are probably playoff teams. Like even
I think
before.
the last time it happened, Adam, was literally when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. They played the Jags, and the Jags made the championship game that year. So that's probably the last time we had two
just want to bring
teams.
the Eagles up again. That's all you're doing.
Champions.
But yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. That's kind of like what we're talking about here. So it feels like it's very few and far between that these things actually happen. And I understand that, you know, they want to, in theory, save the best games for the home fans back in America and all that. I understand that. But I think certainly when you've got a commissioner who is consistently pushing for the international games and making it long, you know, bigger and bigger, and we want to have every team playing one international game, you have to put quality out there, because otherwise people just won't come. Now, you've got the Commanders Dolphins, is that right, for the Madrid game? I think that's a pretty good game. You know, look, I know the Dolphins are kind of dropping off a little bit, but they've still got good players, and that's a pretty decent game. But it's their first one. I said this, didn't I, about Germany? They gave them the Chiefs against the Dolphins, the very first game, and then they punished them with the next one, which was wasn't it the Colts Patriots or something? It was awful.
The Giants versus...
that Chiefs game was meant to be in Mexico. The plan was for that to be in Mexico.
Right, okay.
And it couldn't work out because of the stadium.
It does feel like this happens quite a bit. That initial game in that country, bang, we're going to give you a really good game to get you going, and then we can just give them crap now. And that's kind of how it kind of comes across. So I think the matchups are probably not really getting people excited. When it comes to whether it's greed or not, they're a business. They want to make money. Shock horror.
Yeah, no, you're right there. And that's something I think we do need to reiterate is like, we do know this is a business. We know this. Like, we're not obtuse. No NFL is obtuse to the fact of like, this is money making. Like, these are billions and billions of pounds at play here, billions of dollars, sorry, at play here with these organizations and these teams, and getting them even over here and doing all that is a lot of money as well for these teams. But they've got the money to do that, and they do. So I don't know. I mean, I think. Do you think that because the NFL has been over here quite a lot, Gareth? But the third question we had there, we're now seeing the effect of fans actually choosing a team to support, therefore influencing decisions. Do you think that is effective as well? But because I do think we are getting less jersey. You know, Americans always say to me, you know, it's crazy how many jerseys you see. I'm like, well, last few times I've been, there's been very strong fan sections. Now I know Americans have helped that, but I think it's a coming together of UK and US fans for that. You know, I remember the Giants Packers game. Man, was that Packers dominant, and that wasn't just US. They did not fit it with US fans. They didn't. It was a mix.
Like, a good example of that was the Bears last year. The amount of Bears fans that were in that stadium was great. Like, literally, it did feel like the Bears home game. So obviously, like, they're expecting, which it should have been because it was their home game. And obviously, I think Jags were expecting a more even split. I think there's a bit of that in the fact that people are, and I think we've always had our teams. I think it's more the fact that if I'm going to spend £200 on a ticket, I want to go see someone I want to see. And if you're giving me the Jets 2 years in a row, if you're giving me the Cleveland Browns, don't get me wrong, I'd love to see Myles Garrett. What a player. Do you know what I mean? And whichever quarterback they decide they're going to use. But I think you're giving me the Browns 2 years in a row. You give me the Vikings, which the Vikings make sense. The Jets make sense. So obviously it's their markets. And And you hope whether the expansion to that market program will give us more teams, like the Chiefs now have us. You hope that means we're going to get a Chiefs game in a few years. But I think the problem we've had is because they've gone, the market teams, we'll just send them again. And I think that has led to a bit of a, oh, we've got the Jets. And I think that whole announcement, because I think weren't we in New Orleans when they announced the three teams of being the Browns, the Jets, and the Jags there, I think we all went, great.
Yeah.
None of those teams. No, I think that's the problem. And I think you are going to see more fans of those teams go into it because at the end of the day, they will go see it regardless of how bad they are. But the problem is the general day-to-day fan, I'm going to go to Dublin instead. I'm going to go to Madrid. I'm going to go to Germany because I can make an event of it and my travel is cheaper than getting to London.
Okay, so, TH Fantasy Football, which is at TH Fantasy Football, at TH_Fantasy_NFL. Regardless of all the attention this week, is the likely outcome that tickets still sell out by the time the games come around and nobody really talks about all of this until this time next year again? I'm sure that's what the NFL will be hoping for. I think there's an element of that, for sure. There's nothing going on at the minute, within the NFL world. It's a complaint every year. Someone doesn't get tickets or tickets are too. I don't think it's been as ferocious as previous years, like this year.
The queue looked it, but once the queue ended and everyone saw the prices, there's still far too many tickets available. Like, you had a queue of 250,000 people, apparently. You had people whose numbers were 250,000 plus. And yet when they got to the front, there was loads of tickets still there. Like, I don't know, unless Wembley's massively expanded and they haven't told us. Or Spurs has massively expanded, and again, they haven't told us. That shouldn't be a case. If you are 250,000 in a queue, you shouldn't get a ticket in any other event.
I think final question.
I do think they will sell them. I think they will go eventually. There is a part of me that makes me think that people are waiting for the Dublin game and the Madrid game to go on sale. And if they can't get tickets for that, then they'll come back to the London games.
Probably final question for this episode. We've got Denver Dave 30 at there. How much of the ticket price is down to the NFL and how much of it is down to Ticketmaster's dynamic pricing strategy? I think it's important to end on because I think we are grilling at NFL UK a lot when Ticketmaster need to have the finger pointed at as well. There have been huge complaints, of course, with the Oasis ticket sale, which was the dynamic pricing and stuff like that. Where is the blame who is to blame here? Because it's a collaborative experience with all of them, I think.
I personally hold Ticketmaster accountable for a lot of stuff. I think that the fact that they're having to shut down the queue because they didn't know how many people in the queue are bots or not a great look for a website solely designed for that. The fact that the random allocation of numbers where you are, no matter what time, is automatically angers people. You also have the fact that the extra random charges. Like, why are you charging me for an e-ticket that you have to produce? I've paid you for that ticket in the first place. Like, the fact you can see a ticket go from, say, £70, and by the time they've had all their fees and charges on, is almost doubled in price. How is that legit and allowed? I very much am very anti-Ticketmaster for what, and I think it'd be better if they weren't involved. Because I think a lot of the blame goes down to there. I think that the prices would be better if Ticketmaster weren't taking such a ridiculous cut.
Yeah, I kind of agree, to be brutally honest. The tickets that we bought for the Jags Rams game were £66 each, and they became 77 because of it. Now that they are the cheapest tickets in Wembley. I'm a Union Jacks member, so that's how come I got them pre-sale, or pre-general sale. But I paid £47.52 in ticket booking fees, £2 in digital tickets delayed amount, and then another £16.50 in Wembley sustainability fee. So
let's make it up.
When you think about it, that's how come them 6 tickets went from being 66 to 77, because you're getting like a good 60 plus quid there in fees, one through Wembley, two through Ticketmaster. My argument is something that I spoke to Andrew about this, and I was sort of saying, he kind of said, you can't, Ticketmaster is the company that they've gone with, so you can't really change it for that specific reason.
No,
however, I would argue, I think it should be something that the teams should be doing themselves. I think you should be buying it through the teams. If you went to the theatre, you could buy it through the theatre rather than through a company like Ticketmaster. If you went to a football game, you could buy it through the football team rather than going through Ticketmaster. I think this is something that I'd like to see happening over here now. I think that it's such an established thing, the London Games, and the fact that the NFL are consistently pushing more and more international games, that I think that this isn't something that's going to go away anytime soon. And so allowing the teams to sell the tickets to UK, almost have like an office, like a UK office.
I am pretty sure that they don't sell them in America. I'm pretty sure it all goes to Ticketmaster.
Right, okay. But what I suppose what I know, it's a complete, like I say, Ticketmaster are the company that do it, and so therefore that's kind of the end of it. But I would just say there are other ways that it works in different sports and different markets, and certainly in this country, you can do it through different ways that, I think most people would find would work better than having to go through Ticketmaster, because it is atrocious trying to get through Ticketmaster and trying to buy tickets every year. It's bad. It's just that it was worse this year. And the irony is that it was incredibly bad. And then when it all went away and I came home from work that night, there were loads of tickets available. So that's one thing I would say just quickly before we finish. That was the reason why I thought doing this show was a good thing, because I do feel like this is a bit of a seminal moment with the London Games where it feels like it's turned a little bit and not for the better, where it kind of feels like I've never known tickets be available for me to come home from work that day and there'd be tickets available. They're normally all gone. There's thousands available. There really is. And actually, the game that you looked at, Fred, the Vikings game, is actually the better sold out one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Broncos one, there's loads more, and the Jags one, there's a lot. And it's just like the top tiers of these, they're just not selling. They're not. People are just not willing to pay the money.
Hopefully, the tabs all get burnt this year. Then, as a result, they get stuck with the tickets they can't flog.
There's always a silver lining.
Well, another silver lining I would say is that if there are people out there who were trying to get tickets sort of day dart and can't afford the prices that they are and stuff like that, is that tickets is wait, and also maybe this is time for you to maybe be smart with your money, and you can save a little bit here, and if you can save a little bit anyway, and it gives you a bit of a, well, I've not got the money straight, I haven't got any money now, therefore I can't get them. Well, if you can accumulate some, you've got a good chance of these tickets not going away very quickly. So whether you get it in 2 months' time, that's just like a silver line, I think, for some people who unfortunately don't have the current financial situation now. Maybe you might be in the better financial situation in a month's time, 2 months' time, maybe in 3 months' time, where tickets might still be available. And and good luck to you. And so Adam, Gareth, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Make sure you check out it and the rest of our videos that are on YouTube right now. Make sure you follow us on social media. We'll be back again maybe at some point over the summer. But if not, we've hopefully got plenty of interviews lined up, plenty of stuff that will be happening in London and elsewhere around the country to do with NFL and the UK as well. So until then, we'll see you all very soon and enjoy the rest of your week.